Here is RFKJ on that topic, on Make America Healthy Again. Saw 5.
Millions and millions of Americans who want clean air, clean water, and a healthy nation have concerns about toxins in our environment and pesticides in our food. That's why today I'm repeating my pledge to establish a panel of top experts working with Bobby to investigate what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic health problems and childhood diseases.
Oh, you want to know that the food that you're feeding them is not filled with chemicals that are going to give them cancer and chronic disease. And don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
Victor, this is so uplifting to me because I have to say, as somebody who's covered this for a while on this show, no one's talking about this. RFKJ was one of the only ones to even bring it up. Trump never brought it up. Kamala never brought it up. This is not something they talk about over on the Dem side. These are all their friends who run these industries that are poisoning us and then getting rich off of the poisoning. So it was wonderful to hear this not only being said at a presidential rally, but elevated as like a critical piece of the Trump messaging at this point. And it's dangerous.
Well, you know, I'm speaking from my farm, Megyn, and it's been in my family since 1870. And the early generations that lived here lived into their 80s. But with the advent of organophosphate, organochloride, pesticides, and I'm talking about someone who put them on for 30 years myself, because I was told they were absolutely safe. My sister-in-law died of leukemia at 51, living on the farm here. My daughter died at 26 of leukemia, working side by side since she was 4 years old with me. My mother died of 65 of a brain tumor. Her sister, who grew up here, died at 49 of breast cancer. And I've had an immune problem for about 15 years. Every time I get COVID, I get long COVID. And so I don't know what the cause is. I'm not a conspiracy advocate. And I know that we've really cut back, the industry has cut back on some of the things like paraquat that are deadly, or, you know, parathion, which can kill you. And all of these, point I'm making is when people use those chemicals, it wasn't like I'm breaking the law or this is too risky. It was, this chemical is so safe, you could probably drink it. That's the kind of message we got. And then you use it, and then you find out that DBC is in your well and it causes male sterility. So then you don't drink your water. And that's just the story of agribusiness. And the problem is, if you live on your farm and you're a family farmer and you're, say, 150 acres, 20 acres, then you live there. So you are very careful about the types of chemicals you use. If you own 20,000 acres or 10,000 acres and you're not living there, then it becomes more of an abstract experiment, if you see what I mean. And so when he says that, and everybody says, well, he's a kook and all these chemicals are safe, they're getting safer all the time, but they're only getting safer because people like him are bringing it to people's attention. And, you know, when I look at my family that was working all during the 80s and 90s together, and we had a collection of 10 children but among us, and we were bathed in chemicals, and we had organic acreage as well, but some of it was just traditional ag. The ag guy came out and he said, you've got to use this, Victor, you've got to use this. You've got to get 1,000 boxes an acre. The only way you can do it and break even is do this. We've tested it. It's absolutely safe. And then you put it on and you get sick. And the family farmer doesn't hire employees who take the risk. He does it himself. So then you're much more sensitive to a message by RFK. And so I really appreciate what he's doing. And I look back at my family and I think, wow, my grandfather in the age before this lived to be 86. My grandmother lived to be 93. Her mother lived to be 93, my great-grandmother, and no one has gotten past really 70 years old. And most of the people died in their 40s or 50s, and that's kind of scary.
Victor, that's terrible. I'm sorry. I didn't know any of that. It's certainly not about your daughter. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry to
it
hear
was
it. And
we had we had tomatoes, and she would be covered with tomatoes, and then and we went out in the plums and peaches. She worked since 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, and it was very sudden. She got a very lethal form of leukemia that came within 2 weeks and killed her. And my mother was a appellate court judge in the prime of her life, and she got a brain tumor. And my sister-in-law was only 51, and she got leukemia. And of course, lymphomas and leukemias, and those are the types of blood cancers that people associate with this toxicity. And there are certain chemicals that every farmer who farms knows that they'll kill you if you get, because you see, Megyn, the farmer is putting them at 100 times more than the spray, or maybe even 1,000 times. If you have 500 gallons of water in your spray tank, you put a gallon in there. Well, then it's diluted 500 times, and RFK is talking about that diluted material that vaporizes onto the crop, and then it doesn't break down in time for people when they consume it. But if you're the farmer, you're putting 500 times that amount in the pure form into the tank. So that means your hands, your face, it splashes. It's very dangerous to do. And of course, now it's much safer and we have more knowledge, but we're still living with the effects of that.
well, I mean, it's not, of course, the problem's not solved in any way for the American consumer, never mind for farmers like you who actually have to deal with it at the source. And this is one of the things, like Casey and Callie Means has been out there for a while sounding the alarm on this. Very smart guy. And his sister, Casey, is a Stanford educated surgeon. She went to Stanford Medical School, top of her class, was actually working as a surgeon for many years, and then realized this system is corrupt. What we're doing is we're in the business of keeping patients sick and then charging them per body part to take them out, to fix them up, and then just keep them on the revolving wheel of sickness. And they were making the point to Tucker that one of the best things that the American health system wants to see is a sick child, because then you get them on some sort of a medication. They're sick for life. You've got them paying into the system. And she's not some kook. She's not saying, oh, it's a government, like they really want sick children. They just look at them as financial cogs in their wheel. And they don't behave in a way that would reflect a desire to make that child well, never mind an adult. But that the children are the most lucrative ones, because that's a lifetime of being hooked on medication. And they were talking about, among other things, the merger of Monsanto and Bayer, right? So you've got one of the biggest, chemical companies in the United States with one of these, medicine companies that's supposed to get us well. So it's like this never-ending loop of illness, we'll fix it. Illness, we'll create the illness and then we'll quote, fix the illness, which never gets fixed. This is what they're trying to talk about. This, and RFKJ is also talking about, and so are the Means, about the ultra-processed foods that we're shoving down our children's throats and our own throats, and how good luck avoiding it if you're a regular American shopping at any American grocery store. No one's calling attention to this. No one. But there's a reason Peter Attia did so well in his book. There's a reason guys like Mark Sisson, who's been calling attention to this, he's been on the show too, have been jumping up and down about this stuff, because Americans know that everybody's got a story about young people, their friends, their family getting cancer at an alarmingly young age and dying quickly from it. No one's taking it seriously because all the financial incentives are for the system to perpetuate. So it's wonderful to see a ball buster like RFKJ, who clearly does not care what anybody thinks of him inside this system, come out and say, I am defeated in this contest, but I am not defeated in my fight against all this nonsense. And to see somebody as powerful as Trump elevate him and say, I'm into it and I'm platforming you and I'm going to continue. Like, I really think that even like the California, Tucker and I were talking about this, like Birkenstock crowd is going to be giving Trump a second look if this is his plan.
And that message about the healthcare and agribusiness industry, it's analogous to what he's saying about the big media too, that they're corrupt, that they tell us lies, that they go on there with a straight face and feed us this propaganda night after night after night, and people know that it's wrong. They increasingly know that it's wrong, that it's inaccurate. They never apologize. They never backtrack, and it's when I saw Leon Panetta on the stage at the DNC, and I thought to myself, you used your prestige over a lifetime, and you were director of CIA, and you put your name, or you were one of the primary signees of that 51 intelligence authorities that said that laptop of Hunter's was Russian disinformation. And you knew that was cooked up by Anthony Blinken, and you knew it was right before the debate, so it would fuel Joe Biden's lies, and you knew it would affect the election. And you knew the FBI had that laptop in its possession and knew that it was authentic, and you knew that what you were doing was a lie, and you knew on national TV you would never apologize when you were asked to. And yet we're supposed to believe that he's a grandee with a sterling reputation because the media, and that's just typical of John Brennan and James Clapper and Andrew McCabe. So I think a lot of people
Michael
are just
Hayden.
saying, Michael Hayden, he was comparing Trump to Auschwitz with cages on the border.
Yep.
And when you
at least twice he's compared Trump to Hitler.
He has. And then I could go in, I won't get into the names of 4-star retired generals, but I think people, and look at Fauci, people look at those people and they say they either lie under oath or they do things that if we did, we would be put in jail. And I think RFK is a voice that is not afraid to articulate, and he articulates so well, and he's bulletproof. I don't want to use that metaphor given his family, but my gosh, he's pretty courageous. He doesn't really care what people say about him. Trump doesn't either. Trump's sensitive, but he doesn't really care. And J.D. Vance has taken the heat, and the more that they persevere, the more persuasive they become. The very strange things about Trump is the last 4 or 5 days, Megyn, the longer he doesn't retaliate or go to the ad hominem, and the more they do against him, it turns out that when he's magnanimous, he rises in the popularity, and they look smaller. And when he talks about the issues, he's really good at it. He's better than he is about the insults.
Did you know that there is nearly $1 trillion of infrastructure and pandemic funds yet to be spent? That's right. There's a massive amount of money that the lame duck administration is pushing hard to spend in their last few months. If the president is able to push these funds out, we could see another prolonged inflation surge. And I'm sure you remember the terrible effects that the first one had on many, many Americans. Still having on many, many Americans. But there's hope. A surge in prices can be beaten. You see, a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group is the ultimate inflation hedge for your savings in uncertain times. To see how to protect your IRA or 401k, get your free info kit on gold by texting MK to 989898. Birch Gold makes it seamless to roll over your retirement account while preserving your tax-advantaged status. Don't wait for the president's spending spree to tank the dollar further. Protect your financial future right now. Text MK to the number 989898 for your free info kit from Birch Gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.